where I come from, people find it very interesting that I have ended up living here in Poland. They ask me a lot of questions about how is the country, how are the people. In Latin America and in the Dominican Republic, it's fair to say that we don't have that much information about this country because of the distance, because of the historical link between the countries not being too strong. We lack information. And yes, we have history lessons and we have learned really important things that have happened in this region and in this country, but we are not so in tune as we are, let's say, with a country like Spain, because of the impact that it has had in our own history. And when they ask me, I immediately start talking about this country. This is my home. I give them numbers and statistics and I get very excited. But they want to know more about the people. They want to know about the traits, the characteristics. And I really start thinking, man, I have to tell you guys, Poles are quite interesting folks. They have many incredible things like loyal, they are hardworking, but you know, they are also feisty. Sometimes they can be a little bit angry. And that is a very interesting question. Are Polish people angry? I'm going to give you my opinion on this episode based on my personal experience dealing with them in this 11 years since I met my wife. But we cannot talk about the characteristics and traits of Polish people if we don't first define something very important, and that is that Poles belong to the Slavic people ethnic group, or the Slavs as sometimes they're commonly referred to. The Slavs are geographically distributed throughout the northern part of Eurasia. But why did I want to give you that information? Well, it's very simple, because Slavs share certain traits and common characteristics that make them very Slavic. For example, number one, they tend to be seen or described to, especially by Westerners, as angry, as a little bit rude, as people that are somewhat rough around the edges. They are very direct.
If he dies, he dies.
They don't like to smile too much. Their demeanor is quite calm, also quite stoic, and they detest, actually, I'm going to use the word detest. I think it applies to the feeling that they have towards people and behaviors that are loud and that are over the top. They don't like those type of behaviors. They find it fake. They find it just overall unpleasant to be around. It seems as if they don't have any sense of humor, which is not true. It's not true at all. Another great characteristic of Slavic people and Poles, they value personal relations. They really value trust. They don't open up very easily to strangers, and they actually will purposefully put up a little bit of a wall so that you kinda have to prove yourself a little bit. There's always this sensation with Poles at the beginning that they don't trust you, you know? Whatever you're saying, I'm not so sure if this is true. This situation with trust got actually amplified by somewhat recent historical events. And one thing that used to happen a lot in those times was that authority was quite corrupt, and this antitrust group, you need to prove if you are actually worth being trusted on by, if you're allowed to be trusted, something like that. Another important characteristic worth mentioning very much is the fact that Poles are quite attached to the status quo. They don't like change too much because, let's face it, change usually for them historically represented step backwards. They are a little bit conservative in their thinking sometimes, although I have to say, and this is a huge disclaimer I'm going to display down here, things are changing. The world is changing, and Poland is actually one of the fastest changing countries in the world, which is actually quite ironic because historically their people, the Slavs, don't like change, but it is changing. Now, having said that, and getting the disclaimer out of the way, we can say that a lot of Poles still live under this idea that, hey, listen, this is the way we do things. Don't question it too much. Don't change it. We like it. It's comfort. It feels good. It's part of the culture. It's important to mention it. Zimno jest. Okay, so Are Poles angry? That's the reason why you clicked on this video. I think it depends from which angle you look at it from. So I'm a Latino. In my country, in my culture, it's not okay to show outbursts of anger.
Mi amor, you still mad at me?
No me toques!
Now, we have all seen the memes, we have all seen the soap operas, the telenovelas, where the Latinos are very feisty and they talk all the time and they are very, very expressive with their feelings. But it's a different type of expression. It's a little bit over the top, but it's a little bit superficial in how angry you are. So for example, a mom can say to a kid, "Conchole, te dije que no pusiera eso ahí. I told you not to put this there." But then she laughs and she smiles and then we're happy and we're all hugging and it's perfectly fine. Whereas I think that here, anger is a little bit deeply rooted. Emotions are handled a little bit differently. People are emotional. People think that Poles are cold blocks of ice, but that could not be further from the truth. They are actually quite emotional. It's just that the way that they choose to express their emotions, first of all, not in public, second of all, an expression of anger, an expression of negative, strong emotions are understandable. People go like, hey, he was angry. That's why he yelled at the other guy that was driving the car in front of him and stopped abruptly. He was angry. Okay, it's fine. Not pretty, but it's angry. I would have been angry and I understand him. Whereas it's not okay to express love and emotions out in public because it's just distasteful. It's just different ways of expressing and handling and processing emotions. Another big part of the explanation as to whether Poles are angry or not is the word conflict. How is conflict handled? For example, in Latin America, we are terrible at handling conflict. We think that conflict, whenever it arises, it immediately represents violence. It immediately represents danger to your life, to your physical well-being. But the way conflict is handled here in Poland seems a little bit more blasé, seems a little bit more easygoing. Hey, I got angry. I told you why I was angry because I am honest. Honesty here is very important. So if someone is angry, they're just going to tell you like it is. And because also they can be rough around the edges, they're going to tell it to you without making too many, without buttering you up too much. I think here in Poland there's a lot of arguments happening. There's a lot of bickering back and forth. There's a lot of unpleasant interactions, sadly, between strangers. But very seldom it explodes into what we, for example, Latinos think that it will unravel into, like a physical altercation and people are fighting and, you're pulling out guns and everything, which leads to something also incredible. If Poles are so angry, how come they have one of the safest countries in the world? If you see some of the statistics, I'm going to put them up on the screen. Poland is one of the safest countries in the world. In Latin America, we walk around with guns, and that's why you have so many things like cartels and gangs, and in America also. And I believe that in partly it's because we don't know, or at least we don't remember, what real conflict is, what real war, what real violence implies. So, did I answer your question? I don't know. I hope so. Do I think that they are angry? Yes, I think there's a little bit of anger, but I think it mostly comes down to the way people regulate their own emotions and their ability to sometimes understand that honesty doesn't necessarily correlate to anger outbursts. You can be honest, you can say something to someone without necessarily raising your voice, without necessarily getting riled up. Are they really angry? I don't think so. Are they violent? No, they're not. I invite you to come here to test it for yourself, even on a simple holidays for a week or two, and you'll let me know how it feels. Boom! That's all, guys. That's the end of the episode. I hope you liked it. This type of topics are really interesting to me because they really make me think. Do I feel unsafe here in Poland? I don't. Not at all. I feel calm. I can go and shoot my episodes at any hour of the day and feel like, hey, no one is gonna rob me, no one's gonna mug me. But at the same time, do I feel a little bit uneasy if I'm at a light and it turned green and I haven't moved fast enough and someone is gonna yell at me from behind? Yes, I do. Or if the babcia behind me in Biedronka is kind of like almost pushing me so that I move faster and pay. Oh, yes, I do. Babciu, please give me a second. Anyways, thank you very much and I'll see you in another episode. Adios.